Well, we are expecting Thomas Tuchel to be announced officially as the new Chelsea manager any minute now. Look, barring the official confirmation, we know he is going to be the next Chelsea manager. We've been telling you that for quite a while. Our information is that he will sign an 18-month contract, which has an option on both sides to extend that contract by a further 12 months. So basically, initially, it's a 1.5-year deal, which could become a 2.5-year deal. And it's interesting, my colleague Gary Cottrell has been reporting this afternoon that the Chelsea players will be training at 6 o'clock this evening, which is 24 hours before the game against Wolves tomorrow night. And we've seen this. This is something that Jurgen Klopp does as well at Liverpool. So all these Chelsea players, quite a few of them, had issues with Frank Lampard, the ones who are unhappy. Well, there's a new man in charge and there's a new regime, and they're going to have to get used to doing things Thomas Tuchel's way. Obviously, there's been a lot written about Thomas Tuchel, what a visionary he is, what a great coach he is. You know, we've read all the words, but let's see how good he is in the Premier League, because it's been his dream to manage in England. His dream is about to become reality, and he will take his first training session with those Chelsea players, in less than an hour's time.
Yeah, historically, Chelsea love a 5 p.m. announcement, so we are just waiting for that one to drop. Calvi, how will he operate, do you think, within Chelsea's transfer strategy?
Well, look, the first thing to say is that, as far as Chelsea are concerned, he already has a world-class squad. You know, there are not too many issues within that squad when you look at it. So I don't think he will have spent a lot of time speaking to Chelsea about areas of the squad that he wants to strengthen. He does have a lot of very good players there and a lot of players who are underperforming. But your wider question about how he's going to operate, well, he's used to operating under similar situation that he's going to have at Chelsea, because he had it at PSG. He is not going to call the shots when it comes to transfer strategy. There are people above him at PSG who are doing that. There are people above him at Chelsea who are going to be doing that. Obviously, he will have an input. He will say to the people above him at Chelsea, look, this is what I need. This is the kind of player I want. This particular individual is who I want. But then Chelsea will look at that, and they will have their own targets. So it's going to be consensual. He's used to that. That's the way he worked at PSG.
It's a good point you bring up there, and this comparison between Paris Saint-Germain and Chelsea. If you look back to Thomas Tuchel's first summer in 2018 at Paris Saint-Germain, he brought in Kylian Mbappe and Gianluigi Buffon. Now, I say he brought them in. He was the manager when those two players came in. Big name players, aren't they? Absolutely massive players. Kylian Mbappe, I mean, the cost of Kylian Mbappe alone, joining Neymar at the club, he would have been asked, do you want Kylian Mbappe, I'm sure, and he's not going to say no, we know that, but that would have come from above, because the owners would have said, we want to get Kylian Mbappe in the squad. And if you compare that to what happened in his next summer, I think, by the looks of it, Thomas Tuchel had more of an input then about what PSG actually required rather than what they actually wanted. So you see the likes of Ander Herrera and Idrissa Gueye coming in to PSG. Probably more what Tuchel was after, to protect the defence, for example. So as you say, he's experienced a similar structure that he might find he'll have at Chelsea. But as you say, and I mean, Antonio Conte was constantly criticised for this around Chelsea, wasn't he? When he kind of put all of the onus on, you'll have to ask the club about signings, whereas it was made clear to us that Antonio Conte did have an input. And I think Thomas Tuchel will have an input, but he will also be given players as well. And he will be asked, do you want this player? And if it's a massive player, of course, he's going to say yes.
I think you could say that Thomas Tuchel, there's going to be 3 main areas where he's going to have to manage his relationships. The first one is with the fans. And I think that's going to be quite easy for him at the moment, because there's no fans in the stadium. What would it be like if he was stepping out as the Chelsea manager tomorrow night in a packed Stamford Bridge, having just taken over from a club legend like Frank Lampard? Frank Lampard, a figure who a lot of Chelsea fans still think should be the Chelsea manager. So in one sense, I think Thomas Tuchel is lucky that Stamford Bridge is going to be empty tomorrow night. So that's the fans. Then his relationship with the players. That is obviously going to be key. I think when he walks into that training ground and he meets those players for the first time, those players, quite a few of them know him already, but they're going to have a lot of respect for him because of what he's already achieved, because of his coaching pedigree, and because of the fact that he's coached players like Neymar, like Kylian Mbappe, and the fact that he got to the Champions League final last season. The third and most important area always at Chelsea is how you manage your relationships upwards. So what is his relationship going to be like with Marina Granovskaya, for instance? What is his relationship going to be like with Petr Cech? What is his relationship going to be like with Bruce Buck? Ultimately, what is his relationship going to be like with Roman Abramovich? There you see Petr Cech, Marina Granovskaya, Bruce Buck. Marina Granovskaya and Bruce Buck were the two people in the room who told Frank Lampard yesterday that he had lost his job. So it is very key for Thomas Tuchel, the players, the management, and also the supporters. Luckily for him, no supporters at Stamford Bridge tomorrow night.
Well, you mentioned the relationship with Tuchel and the board, and Abramovich and Granovskaya and Bruce Buck. What will he be thinking with regard to the length of his contract? Because from the outside, you're looking at 18 months. It's not the biggest show of faith in a manager, or am I wrong there?
What we were told yesterday when we found out about the length of contract was that there was no appetite from either side for it to be longer. Now, from Chelsea's point of view, they don't want it to be longer because if it doesn't work out, they don't want to be in a position that they were in with Antonio Conte, where they had to pay him about £20 million because he had a long-term contract. It suits them. If it doesn't work out, there's only, if it doesn't work out and he leaves in the summer, they'd only have to pay him a year's salary. Now, from his point of view, why is he happy? Well, I think he just feels that he knows what Chelsea are about. He knows that if you don't get results at Chelsea, you lose your job. And he is happy with the terms that are on offer at the time being. One other point I would make is that looking at his history and bearing in mind what a political club Chelsea is, I'm sure you know people at PSG. His relationship with the people upstairs at PSG wasn't great. He had problems in his relationships with the people who run Borussia Dortmund as well. Even at Mainz, I think he had some issues. That is something that he is going to have to watch very, very carefully at Chelsea, because we've seen in the past people who have problems with the people above them at Chelsea don't stay at Stamford Bridge for very long.
Yeah, there was clear tensions in the end with his relationship with Leonardo, the PSG sporting director. And I guess one thing that we've not spoken about is the relationship with the media. We saw Frank Lampard last week in that kind of tetchy news conference, understandably from him. He felt and was quite defensive there. But you've interviewed him before, Thomas Tuchel. What's he like, and what do you think we can expect the public persona to be?
I think, the first thing is he speaks perfect English, so communication is not going to be an issue. I think he can be quite volatile when it comes to dealing with the media. So I think he will be good box office. Obviously, it is difficult at the moment because of the pandemic. Journalists don't get to sit in the same room as managers when they do interviews, so it will all be done via Zoom or Microsoft Teams. But he can be quite volatile, he can be quite temperamental, he can be quite difficult to handle. And as I mentioned earlier, there have been some fantastic profiles written about him. I think the best one I read today was written by Rafa Honigstein, who is a German football writer who knows German football inside out. And he said that when Tuchel was at Mainz, somebody he spoke to at Mainz said Tuchel had been so demanding of the players that quite a few couldn't take it anymore. He was very unforgiving and bore personal grudges. So I think that could be a warning to those Chelsea players. If you were unhappy under Frank Lampard, if you had issues with Lampard's regime, you better get used to Thomas Tuchel because, according to this piece written by Rafa Honigstein, he is unforgiving and bears personal grudges. Sounds a bit like Dame.